They say family is everything, but what happens when you're always reminded you're not really one of them? I never expected much from my stepfather. After all, I wasn't his flesh and blood, just the daughter of the woman he married after his first wife died. But what he did on his 60th birthday was more than just cruel. While his two biological children each received keys to brand new cars wrapped in giant red bows, I was handed a small box containing a pair of thick, woolen socks, used ones, with a hole in one heel. Everyone laughed. He said it was a joke. I smiled weakly and excused myself, locking myself in my room while the celebrations continued outside. That night, I cried myself to sleep like I hadn't done in years. But 3 weeks later, a call from a lawyer turned everything upside down. Suddenly, I wasn't just the girl who got socks, I was the girl with a secret that could destroy everything they thought they knew. And it all began the day my mother died. My name is Amaka, and I grew up in a modest home in Owerri, Nigeria. My mother was a primary school teacher, strict, loving, and always tired. I never knew my real father. When I asked, she'd always grow quiet and tell me it was complicated. Then one day, when I was 10, she brought home Mr. Sylvester, rich and calculated. He was a businessman. Widowed, with 2 kids, Chuka, 12, and Adiz, 14. They were both fair-skinned and sharp-tongued, always sizing me up like I was a mosquito buzzing where I didn't belong. From the start, it was clear I wasn't one of them. Still, my mother tried. She cooked his favorite dishes, helped with his business, and raised all 3 of us with the same love. But when she died suddenly of a stroke 5 years later, everything changed. I was just 15, and I remember the night of her burial like it was yesterday. As mourners slowly left, and the sun dipped low behind the banana trees, Sylvester called his children aside. I tried to follow, but he waved me off like a housemaid. From that day, I was invisible in that house. No more school fees. No more conversations. My room was moved to the tiny BQ behind the main house. Meals? If there were leftovers, fine. If not, I'd sleep hungry. I learned to sell puff puff and akara to survive. But still, I stayed. Where else would I go? Years passed. I scraped my way through Polytechnic by working nights. Sylvester never looked my way unless it was to assign chores or throw insults. Chuka and Adiz grew into flashy, arrogant adults, living off their father's wealth like leeches. Then came Sylvester's 60th birthday. A lavish event at Oriental Hotel, Lagos. Over 200 guests. Champagne fountains. Traditional dancers. And a moment he made everyone remember, the gift presentation. He raised 2 small boxes. My children, he said with a proud smile, have made me the happiest father alive. Today, I reward that joy. Adiz opened hers, keys to Alexa's SUV. She squealed, kissed him, and cried. Chuka's turn, another box, another Lexus. Then he turned to me. And for Amaka. He chuckled, lifting a brown envelope. I didn't forget you. After all, socks are great for walking, eh? Laughter exploded across the hall. I held my breath. I took the envelope. Inside, socks. Thick, old, mismatched. My face burned. I felt like a child stripped naked in public. I walked out of the party in silence. That night, I swore I would never set foot in that house again. But fate had other plans. Later, a man named Mr. Okonkwo called. Said he was a lawyer, and my presence was urgently needed at his office regarding a private matter of inheritance. I was convinced it was a scam. But he mentioned my mother's full name, and her maiden name too. And then he said something that stopped my breath, your mother left a letter for you. And a will. My hands shook as I sat across from him the next day. He slid a file toward me. Miss Amaka, your mother was not only a teacher. She was also a silent shareholder in her late father's palm oil business in Abia State. I blinked. What? He nodded. Before she married Mr. Sylvester, she inherited 35% of that company, which has been thriving for decades. She kept it hidden, probably for your protection. That share is now yours. I stared at him. My heart pounded. I don't understand. She never told me. He opened another file. Inside was a handwritten letter, dated 2 days before she died. My dearest Amaka. If you're reading this, then I've gone. I kept this secret to protect you from those who might hurt you for money. Sylvester is not who he pretends to be. He married me for stability, but he never loved you. I saw the way he looked at you, like a burden. You were never a burden. You are the best part of me. I left this inheritance to you because you deserve a life beyond socks. Use it wisely. Forgive him if you can. But never let him define your worth. With all my love. Mama. Tears blurred my vision. I left that office with a mix of rage, grief, and something else, power. But the real twist came a week later, when Sylvester was summoned to court over the unauthorized use of my mother's business assets after her death. He looked at me across the courtroom with a gaze I'll never forget, not anger. Not hatred. Fear. Sylvester stood in the courtroom, stiff as a statue. For the first time, his carefully built reputation, the generous businessman, the church elder, the loving father, began to unravel before the public. The evidence was clear. For 5 years, he had diverted earnings from my late mother's shares in the palm oil company, channeling them into his private accounts and shell businesses. All without my knowledge. All while I starved in his back quarters, selling street food to survive. His defense was weak. He claimed my mother had given him a verbal permission to manage her shares. But the letter she left behind destroyed that claim. The judge ordered a forensic audit. Within days, over 80 million Nigerian nairas in misappropriated funds were uncovered. When the media caught wind of the story, they spun it like wildfire. Businessman embezzles from late wife's inheritance meant for stepdaughter. Addis and Chuka deactivated their social media pages. Their comments about socks being enough resurfaced, mocking them publicly. But I didn't celebrate. There was no joy in watching a family collapse, even one that never treated me like part of it. I was angry, yes. But mostly, I was tired. Tired of being ignored. Tired of proving I belonged. After the court awarded me full control of the inherited shares and ordered Sylvester to repay the stolen funds, I left Lagos and moved back to Owerri. I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. But the story didn't end there. 2 weeks after the ruling, I received an envelope delivered by courier. No name. No return address. Just a simple note inside. You may have won in court. But remember, not all debts are paid in money. My hands trembled. Was it a threat? A warning? The next day, someone slashed the tires on my car. Then my small shop was broken into, nothing stolen, just vandalized. Paint thrown on the walls, mirrors shattered, shelves overturned. I reported everything to the police, but deep down, I knew someone wanted to scare me into silence. Maybe Sylvester. Maybe Chuka. Maybe someone else entirely. But I wouldn't run. Instead, I did something they didn't expect. I forgave them. I went to the family house one last time. Sylvester looked like a shadow of himself, thinner, older, broken. I didn't come for money, I said quietly. I came to say, I forgive you. But we will never be family again. He couldn't meet my eyes. As I turned to leave, he finally whispered, she loved you more than anyone. I see it now. But it was too late. 6 months passed. I had begun to rebuild. With the funds from my inheritance, I opened a vocational center in Owerri, a place for young women like me who had been overlooked, pushed aside, or silenced in their own families. We taught tailoring, baking, computer skills, and most importantly, confidence. Every morning, I passed the same quiet street where my mother used to walk me to school. I often thought of her, of how much she gave up, how little she asked for, and how hard she protected me without ever needing applause. In those silent moments, I felt closest to her. One rainy afternoon, a dusty old envelope arrived at my center. No stamp. No name. Just 3 items inside: one of the socks Sylvester had gifted me, a small faded photo of my mother carrying me as a toddler, and a folded note in crooked handwriting. I didn't know. I wish I had treated you better. The cars were loud. But socks last longer. Yours, Sylvester. I stared at the sock for a long time. It was torn at the heel, just as I remembered. But for some reason, I smiled. That was the moment I understood something deep, something quiet but powerful. Sometimes, the people who treat you the worst are also the ones carrying the deepest regrets. And sometimes, the worst gifts hold the sharpest lessons. Sylvester passed away 2 months later. No funeral announcements. No guests. His children left the country shortly after. They sold the house and vanished. I never heard from them again. But I didn't need closure from them. I found it in the quiet impact of my center, in the voices of the girls who came in with nothing and left with purpose. I found it in knowing that what defines family is not blood, no gifts, no inheritance. It is love, presence, sacrifice. And I found it in a single pair of worn-out socks, a cruel joke that turned out to be a turning point. Sometimes, life gives you less not because you're worth less, but because it's preparing you to fight harder, rise higher, and make a deeper impact. The cars rusted. The inheritance faded. But the lessons? They lasted. And to anyone who's ever felt like the outsider in their own home, remember this: you are not what they gave you. You are what you make from what they didn't.